right, it is 5:38, so I will call the special meeting of the North Kingstown School Committee on October 30th, 2023 to order. The first item on the agenda is to convene into executive session pursuant to RIGL 42464 for the discussion of any discussions of job performance, character, or physical and mental health of a person or persons, provided that such person or persons affected shall have been held to an open meeting pursuant to RIGL 42465A1, certified employee A, certified employee B, and district special education coordinator. And then item 2, sessions pertaining to potential litigation and legal advice and collective bargaining pursuant to RIGL 42465A2, discussion on KDO and ADO on behalf of their children AP and TC versus NK North Kingstown School District, parentheses ride. And item 3, discussions regarding the matter of security, including but not limited to the development of security personnel or devices, RIGL 4246A3 crisis response plan. Can I get a motion to go into executive?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll be back as soon as we can.
Jules, we're moving. We're moving.
Guys, we're
We're
moving.
moving.
I'm missing. You good? Okay, so we will come back from executive session. So I will call us back into open, and the first item on the open is the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you can, please join me. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. And we'll do roll call, please.
Erin Earl.
Here.
Robert Case.
Here.
Jennifer Hoskins. Jennifer Lima.
Here.
Thomas Friday.
Here.
Maggie Bush. Here.
Thank you so much. And the calendar?
Thursday, November 16th, school committee business meeting. Tuesday, December 5th, school committee business meeting. Subcommittee meetings. Building subcommittee Wednesday, November 1st, 5:30, Central Admin Conference Room. DEI subcommittee Wednesday, November 15th, 5:30, Central Admin Conference Room. CLAC Wednesday, November 15th, 6:45, North Kingstown Free Library. We will have Thanksgiving recess November 22nd through November 24th.
Okay, thank you. I think that you have a good announcer voice, Jules. Can you read those?
Thank you.
So that brings us to citizens' comments. Do you have the list? Thank you. Okay. It looks like we have one citizen signed up to speak, Keith Boyd. And thank you so much for your patience.
Thank you. My name's Keith Boyd. I am here to ask you not to vote for the new middle school, and I'm going to give you the reasons why. I own a company that specialises in historic masonry repair. We do a lot of work for the National Park Service, the GSA, Department of Defence, universities, the Coast Guard, states, counties and municipalities, from Boston all the way down to Richmond in Virginia, which is where I am now. I haven't yet come across a building that can't be restored or rehabilitated, along with the Secretary of the Interior's guidelines and standards for the rehabilitation of historic buildings. And the middle school is one that is part of North Kingstown's heritage and should be refurbished rather than knocked down, or it should be repurposed. The building, the middle school, the proposed new middle school at Davisville, is going to be built on a floodplain. Absolute folly. I've listened to the public, I've seen the streaming of the public comments, and I've seen the engineers say, oh, we're going to build a berm. That's not good enough. All you're doing building a berm is pushing the project further down the river or further down the plain to someone else. It's going to be their problem, not yours. But that's not good enough. Nobody should be building on a floodplain. It's designated a floodplain for a reason. It's because at some point it floods. So why would you want to put a school building there? You wouldn't be allowed to put housing there. You certainly shouldn't be putting schools on it. And an army of engineers could tell me different, but the Army Corps of Engineers will tell you that they haven't come across an engineer yet that's gone up against nature and won. It doesn't happen. Consolidation is not the answer here. You should be keeping the two middle schools as they are. The traffic increase on Route 1 will be enormous for the people coming up from the southern part of North Kingstown, from the new developments over on Tenrod Road, the proposed developments over by Walmart, and the ones opposite the train station. This area will become a no-go area for anyone wanting to travel up and down Route 1 during school times. The school will be built, I take it, on the collaborative high-performance school criteria, CHIPS criteria. I've got a nod there, yeah. You haven't explained to the public what that is or why you want that, and I think that's
30
wrong.
seconds.
30 seconds left, right? I'll try and be quick. When you build a new place, you'll be building it using the worst criteria. You'll have the cheapest architects, the cheapest engineers, and the cheapest builders, because that's what you're mandated to do. We're not getting a great product. You've got Wilson Park pitches have just been renovated and restored. You've got contracts out for the basketball pitch and for the tennis courts. Take the middle school over there if you want to, if you're talking about recreation areas for them. Utilise existing middle school buildings. Is that it? Yes. Oh my gosh. All right, one final thing. It's not us that's going to be paying this $147 million payback. It's not us, it's our children. It's our grandchildren. You shouldn't be putting this on their shoulders. You're doing this because you're rushing to get this loan from next year, or this reduced cost
Sorry,
loan.
I have to ask you something.
I know.
You can feel free to email us. Thank
It's
you.
cyclical. It'll come back. Do the research first, because you haven't done the research, and you've admitted that at the last public meeting.
I'm so sorry I have to ask you something. Thank you.
All right. And I wish you'd give people
Any
more
other
time.
citizens' comments?
I'm not-
Jules?
No,
Is that-
there are none.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on to the next agenda item. Routine items. First item on there is the just checking. Right. Seal the minutes, right? And then, all right. So the first item is we need to do a motion to seal the minutes from the executive session of October 30th. And I'll disclose that there were no votes taken in executive session. Do I have a motion to seal the minutes?
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great, thank you so much. Next item is minutes approval from March 17th. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Oh, sorry. There's two things. Hold, please. The agenda's different because of the special. So that brings us to the consent agenda.
Consent?
Yeah. There's two items under consent. Would anyone like to exempt any of the items before we make a motion for the consent agenda? Okay. Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
What I said.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so those are approved. And then I would like to make a motion to move unfinished business to before the subcommittee reports, because we have some employees here that we would like to allow to. Yeah, move new business. Yep, the whole new business, what I say. Just kidding. I would like to move new business to before the subcommittee reports. Can I get a second for that?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. So now that will bring us to new business, which the first item on that agenda is the district special education coordinator contract. Can I get a motion?
Second.
Motion to approve? Okay. And then, so we'll do motion to approve by Jen, second by Tom. I'll open it up for discussion. Dr. Duba? Do you want to? Yeah, you can introduce. Yeah, as part of discussion, and then we'll do the vote.
You want to do the vote first?
Andrew, what's the proper procedure there?
I mean, you can, if you can explain what the purpose of the vote is, do the vote and then do it.
Okay, we'll do that then. Okay, no worries. So we have the district special education coordinator contract, and so this is in response to a position that the school committee had approved, or this position was created last spring during the budget process from hearing from especially the elementary principals that they needed some support conducting different meetings, et cetera, where you really need somebody with this expertise. And so the school committee had approved this position. And so we are very excited to see this contract in front of us. Any further discussion on this one? Okay, so we'll take the vote, and then I'll turn it over to Dr. Duva. All those in favor of approving the contract with the date, start date that we had specified, because that was different than what was in the packet. Please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. And I will turn over to Dr. Duva.
Great, thank you. I am pleased to introduce you to Dr. Julie Alfano, who is here this evening, who you just appointed into the position of the District Special Education Coordinator. Julie has a bachelor's and master's degree in education from Providence College, and she also obtained her doctorate in educational leadership from Johnson & Wales. Got a few of us up here from Johnson & Wales as well, and in the audience.
Police me was crying.
Yes.
It's fine.
Julie was a middle school special educator for the Cumberland School Department for over 8 years, also the coordinator for the extended school year. She currently has been a district special education coordinator for the last 2 years, doing a similar position. Dr. Alfano is well versed in the process and procedures of special education and has successfully facilitated hundreds of team meetings. She is known to be a wonderful coach to special educators, providing hands-on training and support. She looks forward to working alongside with our director and our assistant director of people personnel in her efforts to support all of the teachers and administrators and students in our school system.
Thank you so much. Congratulations and welcome.
I'm very excited.
Okay. You okay,
Welcome
Rachel?
aboard.
I'm sorry.
Get all choked up.
So excited. So excited to have some help.
Okay, and so while we are here in new business, we'll move on to the next item. And so I'll make a motion just to discuss this item. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. And again, you're welcome to stay, but also welcome to. Okay, so we will. So this one is a request that has come forward to us by the town. And so there is they recently, we received a correspondence in October 25th from Jeanette at the town saying that she finally received the resignation of David Johnson, who is on the audit committee and the representative from the school committee for that. The reason she said finally is David actually moved out of town, but that's not actually a restriction to be on this particular committee, and so he was continuing to do so, but kind of with the intent of the fact that he was no longer in North Kingstown, would like us to find a replacement for him. But he has officially resigned, and so the audit committee, the document that we received basically says the audit committee shall be made up of citizens of the town who are appointed to 4-year staggering terms. And then it goes on to talk about one of the members it says one member shall not be an elected official nor a town employee, shall be selected from a list of 3 names presented to the town council by the school committee. No members of the audit committee shall sit on any other body or committee of the town or school unless the town council affirmatively determines that such service will not impair such members' effectiveness. And so our goal is to find 3 names to present to the town council from the school committee to select someone to represent us at the audit committee. And there is some, they have this in their packets, right, Jules?
Mm-hmm. They
Yeah.
should, yeah.
Yeah, and so you can see that document that kind of talks about, kind of who we're looking for, et cetera. And so just wanted to open that up to discussion with the school committee on perhaps ways that we could cultivate said 3 names. And there is a time-sensitive nature to this request. As I mentioned, David has resigned, but also for the committee to meet, which is a very important committee, of course, for the town, they need to reach quorum, and with having vacancies and whatnot, they need some additional members. So, any thoughts?
So I think when we did this before, when we filled this spot, we'd actually run an advertisement similar to how the town does. If we could do that, I think, because that's helpful. They run their little open boards and commissions ad, and I think we did a similar thing for this particular spot.
Yep, when David filled it for David?
Yeah.
Okay. And your ad in the paper?
Yes.
Like both papers, one paper?
Yeah, like old school legal ad, like, it says boards and commissions, please apply.
Mm-hmm. Okay, any other thoughts from the committee on ways that we could help cultivate the 3 names?
Email the
Possibly some
district.
kind of, oh, I'm sorry.
I was going to email the district too.
Yeah.
Did you say email the district?
Yeah, families in the district, like there may be people out there who are like, yeah, that sounds awesome.
In addition to that, we see weekly or bi-weekly newsletters from our principals. I'm wondering if that would be a place where we could put an advertisement out.
Any thoughts from the administration on these?
Yeah, I would put it in the paper, I agree with the newsletters,
Mhm.
We can put something on our website. Like if, if there's any other community, maybe the rec department do their listserv, just to announce it. I'm just thinking of other ways listservs in the community to get information out, if they were willing to
I
send
mean,
it that
if
way.
the town could advertise it on there, because it is a town committee, I mean, we're
Mhm.
providing the names, but it is an opening on the town committee.
Maybe the town social and their website
Yeah.
and their like email
We can
list.
put it on our Facebook. So you're looking for someone from the town to sit on this.
Mhm.
The one thing that I thought was interesting was in his resignation letter, he said, please advise potential successors of their responsibility regarding the town's whistleblower ordinance and ethics point monitoring. So I don't know why he
Could
specifically
be,
called
so
that out.
he is the person that does that for us. So that might be why, because
Like that
I
specific
mean,
role.
He
He takes the
specifically
complaints.
called
Yeah,
that
he
out.
takes
he
in
that,
does,
his-
he
yeah.
takes it and then he submits it to the school department.
All right.
So he felt
So
that
that
it
might
was
be
important.
why, that way the person that's
Mhm.
coming on understands their full role of what they're
Yeah.
taking
Yep.
on before they say.
Yes.
I'll do it.
Yeah, it's not
Because
just,
the
there's
statute-
some things
I
there,
would-
yeah.
Yeah.
I
The
think
statute
we should
triggers
share
certain
that
obligations on the
description.
Oh, hold on, Dr. Dufresne?
All right.
I would just, I would share the description out with any advertisement
Yeah.
that we put out there.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. The statute triggers obligations on the part of, if he receives a complaint, is that,
So if a complaint goes into it, he has to submit it to us and then we have to
okay,
review it.
okay.
We have to
Mhm.
investigate it.
Yeah, I think it's important for it. I think it's just, I appreciated that kind of call out, and I do think it's, there's certain committees that you sit on and you're a member of the committee, but like just making sure that people are aware that this is part of that, because it might not be clear. I think that that's a valid point in our, as we kind of create the advertisement for it, making sure that we're clear about kind of what the committee does and also what the role of this person and why there's a specific kind of area for a school representative on there, so. Great, any other thoughts on that?
Do we give this 30 days or 2 weeks or what's the timeline?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the question was regarding timeline. I feel because of the challenges with the town having quorum challenges, that maybe 2 weeks would be appropriate, like 2 weeks from when we are able to get it out. So not like 2 weeks from today, but
Right.
say we were able to get something out like next week, then we would go 2 weeks from there, just to make sure that folks have an opportunity to see things and put their names in. We also, I think, have to be very clear that we're submitting 3 names and that the town council selects 1 from that 3, although there are some other positions, I believe, available on that committee, and so I can imagine maybe they would reallocate, if folks are interested, maybe they would get reallocated to the at-large member position perhaps. And so I think 2 weeks from when it's posted is reasonable. Other thoughts?
I just wondered if we knew when the next meeting was
For the-
for that committee, like.
For the
if-
audit committee?
just
I
to-
don't know that off the top of my head. I know town council's tonight and then,
Yeah, just curious, like, in terms of when
yeah.
they run into a.
Yeah,
issue.
do you see,
I'm looking at
yeah.
that right now.
regardless, we would have,
Yep.
we would want it by November 16th. Yeah, so ideally if we get out in the next couple of days, then we would want the people to put their interest in before our next school committee member meeting on the 16th. That would be the quickest we would be able to take action, and we could put it on the agenda. And if we don't have any updates, we could at least get an update on that kind of thing, so. But
Looks like they last met in January.
Great. Okay, so 3 names is our goal. It sounds like we've got some good ideas on ways to put that out, and so we will work on that. There's no action needed today. We just wanted to make sure that you all were aware of it and talk through it in hopes of finding someone to be the school committee representative on that committee. Okay, so we'll go back to reports. And so we have we've had 4 subcommittee meetings since our last meeting, and so we'll start with DI if Jen, you're ready.
Yes.
And then also just be aware, we obviously have the reports, and this is the purpose of the reports is to just report out what happened at that meeting, so the school committee is aware. And then there are some items later in the agendas for discussion for the school committee. So for example, some recommendation from the DEI subcommittees on the agenda later, but we'll do those separate. We'll do report and then those items as they come on the new business or unfinished business. Okay, go ahead, Jen.
Okay, so I was unable to attend the last meeting of the DEI subcommittee, which was held on October 18th, so thank you to Dr. Earl for running the meeting for me. This summary that I'm about to give is based on me watching the video. Dr. Earl gave an update to the subcommittee regarding their recommendations for membership. It was explained that the school committee has sent this to the policy subcommittee for review as part of a larger policy around subcommittee membership in general. Members also talked through the next steps for addressing action items from the equity audit. They made a motion to forward the following recommendations to the full school committee, and those are on the agenda for this evening. 1, to increase opportunities for student voice in areas valued by students. 2, to create an NKSD equity vision statement. And 3, to address the monitoring of discipline data, solicit student input about the current disciplinary system, and to review and revise discipline policies and practices from an equity lens. It was also discussed how the equity audit recommendations do not need to wait for formal school committee action to begin working on. Anyone in the district can take steps at any time to implement recommended action items which will benefit students. The subcommittee's next meeting is scheduled for November 15th.
Okay, thank you. Any questions about the DEI subcommittee report? Okay, thank you. You forgot to mention that I was very worried about the recording.
Yes, I did not
Because
put
it
it in.
Rob did a great job, though. Okay. Next time on the agenda is the Wellness Subcommittee. Tom, are you going to do that one?
Yes, thank you. The
Great.
Wellness Committee met Thursday, October the 19th. We did have a quorum. We initially focused on working on a plan for data gathering in order to determine how well our newly revised and recently adopted wellness policy is being implemented. Karen Weatherwill of Rhode Island Healthy Schools Coalition provided some draft documents from other communities that we can use as templates, including documents from Westerly and Lincoln. The plan is to essentially mine this data and hopefully present it in a condensed form to the full school committee later in the year. There was also a roundtable discussion that solicited ideas from committee members about issues and goals that can be pursued this year. One item that came up from a member suggested that student vaping is a problem, and speaking with Trish Cawley, I understand that that was an issue that was raised last year as well. And I'm not talking necessarily about the curriculum, but ideas that can be communicated to kids about the dangers of this. It's a tricky subject because you're trying to convince kids of something without lecturing them or making them feel like, this is a bad thing, although clearly it is. So again, Ms. Weatherall offered some ideas on methods and programs that could be used to help follow up on this in a fashion that would relate to students in a meaningful way. As a side note, we had the benefit of having Mr. Mezzanotte at the meeting, and he mentioned or brought up the subject of smart passes, which is a new technology that's being used in our schools. And I wonder if you wouldn't mind elaborating on that for just a minute so that the public can understand what you're talking about.
Absolutely. So Smart Pass, which we know we've implemented this year at the high school and both middle schools, is an electronic pass system. One of the things, one of the things we've been hearing anecdotally from both adults and students is that it's been effectively curbing the amount of vaping that's been happening in the bathrooms, which is a concern at every secondary school pretty much everywhere right now. So we're encouraged by that. We've heard that from kids, who's our best sources of information for things of this, and so that's encouraging. So we're going to continue with that. And again, it's not everything. It's an unfortunately very popular unhealthy habit that's developing among our young people that we want to really educate them on the risks of, which we discussed with the Wellness Committee. But we also think that using this system has done a good job at really heading off some of the problems we were seeing.
Thank you very much, Robert. Appreciate it. There were some other good suggestions that came out of the meeting. One is working on ways to support legislation for healthy meals for all students. My understanding is that there are going to be renewed efforts at the State House to draft and enact legislation in the upcoming legislative session, with some effort to solicit support from Governor McKee's office. That's something that apparently wasn't a focus of the effort last year, and so this may be a way to help address that. There was also a suggestion about how to work on convincing kids about the benefits of physical education and physical activity throughout the course of their lives. That was brought up by Pam Pinero, who's a longtime visitor to these meetings and a very good member of this committee. She's also a physical therapist, and I thought that was actually an excellent idea. So we covered a lot of ground in about an hour and a half to 2 hours. Our next meeting is scheduled for January the 18th.
Thank you so much. Any questions about the Wellness Subcommittee report? Just a reminder too, I know we mentioned students a couple of times in there, so Maggie, I don't know if you can help us get the word out about that January 18th meeting, and maybe encourage students to, anyone's welcome to go to those meetings and speak, kind of like how we do with the different subcommittees, and so it sounded like there was some great opportunity for some student voice at the Wellness Subcommittee, so just something to kind of keep on your radar when you're talking to the student union.
Yeah, I will definitely do that.
Awesome. And they're welcome at any subcommittee meeting, but that goes for all. But I did hear a couple times like students and things that students might have some really good idea and thoughts on as they continue to work on things like that. So great. Okay, moving on to policy subcommittee. Back to Jen.
So at the October 16th policy subcommittee, we continued to discuss our drug and alcohol and teen dating violence policies. Members talked about what the current policies say, what the current practices, and how to ensure that they both reflect not only best practices, but what is best for students. Both of these policies, along with the emergency sick leave bank and advisory committees and liaisons, and the transgender and gender nonconforming students were on the agenda for our next meeting, which was earlier tonight. A report out on that meeting will be given at the next school committee meeting.
Any questions about the policy subcommittee? Okay, thank you so much. And then the CLAC subcommittee, Jules, did we get a report for that?
No.
Okay, so we will need to get the one from their last meeting at our next meeting, so we'll roll that over again. I did notice, did you have the time on that, Jules, for the meeting on the 15th?
For who? For CLAC?
Yeah.
6:45.
What time?
6:45. We started at 5:30.
Yeah, so I know, I believe our school committee member representative is not available on Wednesdays, and I noticed on the calendar that was a Wednesday, and so some of us will be at DEI at that time, but if any of the remaining school committee members, that's you too, if you're keeping track, could attend that, that would be really helpful, because I would love to have a school committee representative at the next CLEC meeting, and it's at the library. Okay, moving on to unfinished business. The first item on the agenda is the crisis response plan. So I would like to make a motion to approve those with the amendments and changes that we discussed in executive session. Can I get a second for that motion?
Second.
Okay, open up for discussion. Anything, Dr. Duba, on that? Maybe just explain the process.
No, by state law, we have to make sure that the crisis plans are approved by the school committee and submitted to the Department of Education by November 1st.
Perfect.
And so that's what we discussed.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Any further discussion on that item? Okay, hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you so much, and thank you for the building administrators and the district administration for working on those. We appreciate it. Okay, moving on to the next item, ESS contract addendum for long-term substitute rate of pay. I'd like to make a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we'll open up for discussion, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Duba to kind of walk us through this, and then open it up for any questions that the committee might have.
Yes, so there, what you have in your packet is an addendum to the contract. This addendum is for the rollover for this year, which would go from July 1 of 2023 through June 30th of 2024. At that time, our contract, well, we have to notify ESS by May 1st, if we're going, oh no, hold on, I'm reading the wrong line here. Where is it?
No, that's right, May 1st.
Is it? Yeah, sorry, this
120
contract,
days,
yeah,
right?
this contract and all duly executed addendum to terminate effective June 30th unless the LEA in writing requests to extend the contract for a 1-year period. This notice shall be provided to the company on or before May 1st, but we will have a decision well before that, because my belief is this is part of a budget discussion, and when we put our budget together, we need to make a determination if we're going to continue with them or do something different. So that will happen well before May 1st. And this is just for the rollover for 1 year. The original contract was for 3 years with a 2-year rollover. This is the last year of the rollover that we're about to do.
And so we are actually, the school committee is being asked to approve the change for the substitute, but as you kind of go through the documents, you'll see that there was a lot of different changes. And so can we just get clarity maybe on that piece?
Yeah, and so the additional addendum that's in here is also to approve a long-term teacher sub rate at $165 a day. It is for a long-term teacher. If you look at Exhibit A in the addendum, it is listed as a full-day long-term substitute teacher. We are going to note with the company that it should use similar language on the addendum because it has, in parentheses, 45 days. They have that written there because with certification for the Department of Education, if you're in a position for 45 days or more, you have to make sure that you are certified in that. And that was just their note pertaining to the certification.
Okay.
But it's the same position as is in Exhibit A.
Okay, questions from the committee regarding this? Oh, sorry, just kidding. Go
Sorry.
ahead, Dr. Duba.
And then there's another change that also for an addendum, the way they have listed the sub for a principal in Exhibit A, it's listed as a full-day substitute principal placement. And we're making sure that that is reflected because in the previous it was full-day substitute in middle school, but it's being changed to full-day substitute principal, meaning that the elementary, middle, or high school.
Okay, so if you go back to that first page, that's kind of all the other documents that we received in the packet are kind of the backups and the different things. One thing I would like to note is as we move forward as a school committee, I would highly recommend not doing rollover contracts. I think this is a good example of how that is maybe not what might be best for the district, and I know that there were lots of reasons that led to those, but it definitely makes it hard to keep track of kind of the current contracts and different things like that, and so that's definitely a practice I'd like us to try to avoid if possible. And so if you go back to that original one, that is the letter to myself from Dr. Duva, it kind of walks through some of the things and the new addendums of those three. Any questions? So I'll open up to questions from the committee.
So I am okay with approving the contract as long as what Ken just said, that addendum should be changed to reflect the current phrasing in the rates, which is long-term substitute teacher. And really, it's a rate increase, not an addition.
Yes, so it's being changed from 145 a day to 165.
Right, so that's what the addendum should reflect.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, and then as we discussed, when they republish that list, if they could also include the rates for the summer teachers, since the addendum was in effect from July 1st of this year, we should have those rates listed as well.
Okay. I had a question for the district legal counsel. On the addendum, it doesn't indicate like who signs it, just says signature. So I want to get your recommendation about who the signer should be on this document. Usually it lists like my name or Dr. Duva's name or something like that, and so I just wanted some
It
clarification
actually looks
on
like
that.
the prior addendums have been signed by a number of different positions
Yeah.
and different people.
I wanted your lawyer advice on who might be best.
Lawyer advice typically would be the chair, but if the vote is that the school superintendent's authorized to sign this after the vote, that's fine as well. So it's really your discretion. I usually prefer the chair since it's a school committee action.
Okay. That's not going to hold up anything. I just wanted some clarification because we saw some inconsistencies in the signing there prior to us. And so I actually will withdraw my motion because I had just moved to approve it straight. And so, Jen, if you wanted to propose or if you wanted to put a motion in with your language that you had proposed during the discussion, I will withdraw my motion.
Sure, I'll make a motion to approve the contract based on them changing the addendum to reflect a daily rate increase for long-term substitute teacher from $145 to $165 for the daily rate and the corresponding half-day rate, and also adding the rates that were charged for the summer personnel in this summer that we just had, so effective from 7/1 on.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, then we'll open up discussion. Does that make sense? Okay, any questions or clarifications there? Just one question, Andrew. This addendum doesn't affect anything with the ability for the district to terminate this contract if we wanted to at the end of this, right? Like,
Nope.
we're still fine, we still just, it doesn't.
Absolutely correct.
alter
Yep,
that? Okay.
as drafted by Dr. Duba there, it now talks about a
Yeah.
specific termination date, and it's our option to rule with.
Okay, just wanted to clarify and make sure we were good there. And again, obviously, we'll make those decisions and conversations, but I just wanted to make sure we weren't accidentally doing anything unintentionally. Okay, anything else? Okay, hearing no further discussion, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you so much. So the next item on the agenda is the Employee Support and Wellbeing Committee funding request. So I'll make a motion to discuss. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, and so this was a request that had come before us from the Employee Support and Wellbeing Committee. They had requested, they had come and done a presentation for the school committee. They had requested some funding, and so we had put this on as unfinished business to get an update from the administration kind of on where the funding, like if the funding request had been fulfilled, and also kind of what was going on in that area, because it was not something that had been originally budgeted for. But we wanted them to kind of take a look at it, and so this is just a kind of check-in on that and see if we needed to take any school committee action in order to support this committee. So, Dr. Duba, do you want to walk us through that, or do you want?
It is,
I believe their original request is in the packet.
Yeah, that's actually not what was there. Like, that wasn't the attachment that we had the day of the presentation.
that was from the PowerPoint they gave us.
They'd
Is there
given us like an
something else
Excel, yeah, they'd given us an Excel sheet with the breakdown of what they were asking for.
I think I have that.
Yep, no, that's it. Okay, so perfect. And so again, this is just a check-in to kind of see where we're at, and also see if there's any school committee support needed, because we are kind of mid-fiscal year. And so, is that green?
Do you want me to go through what they're asking for?
Yeah, why don't we review what?
So the request that they made, it is in the amount of $10,000, and it's for district-wide gatherings. One is to have a professional development day in the spring. They have listed March, but I think when Mr. Mezzanotte met with them, it will be April, just based on the days. It's to provide a hot breakfast to all of the staff that are attending that PD event. The estimated cost for that is $4,500, along with bringing in a speaker for that morning. The speaker's topic would be on well-being, social emotional learning, mental health. Estimated cost for the speaker is $2,000. In addition to that, they want to promote a program at Mattering at Work, and it's a shout-out recognition board program, and that has an estimate of $600. The lanyard pins, which we already started, we talked about that at, earlier in the year, and those pins are to be given for employees, to give to other employees to be able to recognize them. And that was in the amount of $2,400. That purchase was already made earlier in the summer to make sure that we had available. In addition to that, we also provided lunch on our opening professional development day for the staff, and we put together little treat bags for them welcoming them back to school. So that was also done at the beginning of the year as part of this. And then the last item that's on here is a financial reward for the support person of the year and the teacher of the year of $250 for each person for a total of $500, and that adds up to the total cost of $10,000. So some of this has already been done, and I know that for the future, looking at the breakfast, we believe that is all set as well as far as something that will be provided. It's already been planned that will be provided, and we're looking for the speaker. There's a chance that we may actually have a speaker at no cost, but if not, we will. It's actually the same day. We're bringing in the DEI speaker in the afternoon, and we're going to do the wellness speaker in the morning.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. And so, questions from the committee?
Dr. Duva, do you know or do you anticipate that this is going to be an annual?
So, I don't know, was that discussed at the wellness committee, if it's, last minute, if it's something annually? I think some of this, the pins and the recognition, that is something that we'd like to continue year to year. I think if you're providing a financial reward for the support person or teacher of the year, that would have to continue annually. As far as hot breakfast, I think it's nice that when we have a PD, it's at the beginning of the year at one point that we do provide either breakfast or lunch for our staff, and it's a very nice gesture. As far as bringing in a speaker, I think that really depends year to year based on the professional development that we're looking to provide and what's aligned to our strategic goals. So I would say some of this, yes, would be something that we'd have to budget for in the future for future years in order to continue the program and continue the work that we're doing.
Just to follow up there, I do anticipate that this would be a budgeted item from year to year. It is a stated need. It's a stated priority that we're following as a district, and I think that the specifics may change, but the funding I think is definitely going to be consistent.
No worries if you all don't know the answer to this, but are there other school district committees that have designated budgets?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head. If we think of other committees that we have.
Yep.
Is there anything that I know our budget was pretty lean, but is there anything that might offset this a little bit or all of it?
I think we still need to look to make sure that we can provide the full $10,000.
Yeah.
So, and some of it's not a lot of money.
Right.
And we can look at other costs as we go through the year.
So it wouldn't be the full 10 still at this point, correct? Because you said that some of it's already been.
Some of it has already been.
So do we know what the funding ask that's left?
I would say if I start from the bottom, the financial reward for ESPN Teacher of the Year, if that's something you approve, that would be $500.
It's all about 2,400 for when I was paying attention. As you were going through, it sounded like the only thing that we had actually spent thus far was the 2,400 for the lanyard pins. So maybe we could do 10,000 minus that.
Yeah, I'm wondering the shout out recognition board, because we did start stuff, so I'm wondering if that has already been, how that was done, because I know that's something that was started. And then as far as the food, that would come through food services, and then the speaker.
So food services, the food will come from the food services budget, so that's not something we need to.
talked to Trish Collins.
So really, it's the speaker and then the financial rewards, right?
So we would look to see where the funds for the speaker would come from and the financial reward for the ESPN Teacher of the Year.
Andrew, is there any rules about awards like that? Can we check on that just to make sure? I know that there's some. I just want to make sure that we're not accidentally.
Yeah, we just want to be careful. I think just giving money.
Yep. Great. Okay.
The
Continue
local
that.
department to play through.
I just want to kind of consider. I think that I don't mind the concept. I just want to make sure that we're following proper budget procedures and whatnot. If we do consider that one. and like what's the best way to do that, and what's the most appropriate area for it to come from. Like, you know, like I think there's
Or
different
is it
funding
more of a
sources.
donation for something that's related to use in the classroom?
I'd have to go back and talk to Trish Corley
Yeah.
about the breakfast piece as well, just because like the funding for that particular activity we'd have to just make sure it comes from the right sources.
Other discussion? So I think for me, like making sure that we are supporting the group that is trying to support our teachers, like during like these challenging times, is really important. And so I also know that like it's difficult to plan if you don't have like secure funding. Like like it's, I know where our intent is to get this, but I think we need to prioritize kind of looking at maybe where there are some opportunities for us to be able to say like, yes, 100%, we have the 4,500, you can move forward planning the breakfast, etc. And so would it be possible to take a look at that and come back at the next school committee meeting to kind of like officially like be able to commit these funds, and if we don't have them, being able to officially like say, unfortunately we can't do it this year. I just feel like we should give them like a definitive answer on that.
So as school committee, you want us to look and see where these funds can come from and providing what it is that they're asking for. Do you want us to look at every area, or?
I am comfortable if we have the funding available, like in different ways. Obviously, we can't make more money up here this year, but if we think that we are able to do this, I would like to support the full request from the committee. But I'd like us to be able to like officially say, like, you are good, you have the $10,000, continue with planning. This is what lines they're coming out of. Like, I think it just is good. And if we can't, explaining to them why, and then working in and working through the budget next year. Like, I don't think. I would be completely understanding if we aren't able to do all these things, but I would like to get them a definitive answer either way. And if we think we can, kind of understanding where that might come from. Other thoughts?
I agree.
Is there anything that people are welcome to say, like, we don't have to do all, we'd like to fund some of it, like, it's not, that was my personal opinion, it doesn't have to be the opinion.
No, I agree that this is a committee that I think is trying to support the people in our district, and if we can support them in doing that, like you said, I think that we should. And I would also wonder if there's anything else, sorry Trish, that can come out of the food services budget, because I know they have quite a nice little cushion there, so if there's a way.
There's rules though.
I know, that's why I said if there is, whatever
That's the
can
issue.
come, yeah.
Yeah. We also need to make sure that money's going back to, I think it's very student-specific things. That's what the auditor had mentioned, I believe. All right, so if you don't mind just taking a look at that. And again, if we're not able to do it, I'd just like to let them know now so that they're not expecting something and then we're not able to do it in March or April. That doesn't feel good for well-being. So if we can just kind of look at that, that would be great. Okay. Anything else on that item?
I agree with you that it's a worthy ask. It's just a matter of figuring out how we can fund it.
So we're asking for that at our next meeting, correct?
If possible.
You can have it for the 16th.
All right, thank you. Okay, moving on to the next agenda item, the new middle school project. I'll make a motion for discussion.
Second.
Okay, and so we'll open up. I just wanted to, I know this is this special meeting is actually our last before November 7th, and so I wanted to see if we had any updates or things that the school committee needed to discuss.
So we have a building committee meeting on Wednesday evening. We'll have updates at that meeting regarding the design of the middle school. There'll be a presentation from Perkins Eastman. We will also have a report out on the traffic study that was completed. We have a report out on the estimated budget of the middle school. And we're also going to discuss other capital improvement plans. We're going to do more work on formalizing what the capital improvement plans will be that will be presented through our budget process, as well as funding if the bond is approved for what those funds will be used for.
Thank you. Other questions or comments?
I have a question. So between now, I saw that the frequently asked questions have been updated Friday,
Yes.
Saturday. Thank you for that. How often can we expect to see that between now and the 7th?
Well, as questions come in, it's we're getting it done as we can dedicate time to that. So we're trying weekly.
Well,
Put that in.
We had a series of questions come in, 3 or 4 questions come in over the weekend. And I know traditionally what we've been able to do is we have a meeting on Wednesday and we try and tackle them at that point,
Okay.
do any follow-up. So I think we're hoping to get something.
Yeah,
Close
I
next
mean,
week.
we're trying to, it takes, I mean, just, you know, it takes time, there's a lot of things we're doing.
Right,
So we're
right.
trying to make sure that we can sit down and get through those questions and update it. I just can't put an exact timeline on it because things happen, but I would say that this week we'll send out another updated version of that,
so at least one more before the 7th.
probably, and then if other questions come through, but we did receive a few questions. over
Okay.
the
So
weekend.
up until those 3 or 4 questions, we had answered everything that had come in, correct?
Do we have a sense of how much the public's using that comment feature? Like, is it?
I think there's been 6 or 7 questions total.
Thank you for
Total
saying
through
that.
the whole thing?
That we,
Like
we,
that.
Through that.
Through that
Through-
form?
through the
Yeah,
form,
we get
but-
emails.
Yeah,
yeah, and we build those in.
Yeah,
And
just
so
curious,
any
having,
email
I thought that
questions?
forum was a good thing to have up there, so I was just curious if people were utilizing it or not.
We did, I mean, sometimes the questions aren't specific to the middle school, so that's happened at least once.
Fun. Other questions or comments regarding the project?
If I heard correctly, if there's email questions coming in, those are also being captured.
We
through
had
that
a list
too.
that was sent, and that was some of the updates.
Okay.
That was most recently.
Okay.
Perfect. Anything else, comments from the committee regarding the middle school project? I'm very happy to hear that on November 1st, that we'll be getting some updates, and then also kind of the update on the traffic study and the budget. That was one thing that I think
And
was
also
really...
sustainability, that's on the agenda.
Oh, good. Yep, and just a reminder to everyone that those are open to the public as well as recorded. And so if we could maybe try to prioritize, Mike, getting that recording up like the next day, I think that would be super helpful.
Yep.
I know there's a lot going on, but just with the timeliness, I want to be as transparent as possible with the voters and getting the information out in whatever form they can have. So particularly for that one, getting it up as soon as possible, I think would be really helpful. And any corresponding like PowerPoints or things that we can put on the website as well.
So I would agree. I can let you know that
Yeah.
some of it is beyond our control. For example, the interview, I've posted the link this evening, but the video's still not up. That we're subject to YouTube. So policy was updated already. It's up there. So it then takes time that's
Yeah.
out of our control.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
we do get it put up right away, but then YouTube has to render it, make sure that it is okay, and then it posts. So
Yeah, no worries. Totally understand that, but just trying to make sure we get things up as quickly as possible. Any other thoughts or comments from the committee? Okay. Great. So we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is the vision of the graduate school committee membership. I'll make a motion to discuss. Okay. And so I believe, so we had received a correspondence from Rob concerning the committee for the vision of the graduate and whether or not a school committee member wanted to sit on that. And so I wanted to open it up for discussion on kind of our thoughts on that. If anybody was interested, if multiple people were interested, we of course could vote on who might sit on that, but also wanted to kind of talk through and make sure you all had a good understanding of kind of what the ask was as well.
I had some email conversation with Rob when this came out, and he asked me to fill out a form, which I thought I did, but apparently I learned this afternoon, whatever it was, did not go through.
It's okay. We extended the form. We left it we put it on another week just
Okay.
because we're still looking for. We want to have a good representation, and so we wanted to put it out another week just to get a few more groups in to be part of it.
Well, I don't pretend that I'm the only person that could do this. I don't know if there's somebody else that might be interested, but I'd be happy to do it if no one else is willing.
Okay.
Or is.
Yes, I understand what you're saying.
Yes.
Tom will do it if nobody else wants to. No.
I
Tom is
didn't
willing
quite
to do
think
it,
of
is what I'm hearing.
I just meant that some people seem to have to do a ton of stuff. So
Yes, thank you so much for that. Any other school committee members interested at this point? Guess we can work through that. Obviously, 3 of us cannot be on it, so it would be one, or we would want to just designate one, probably.
Did you I make a motion, we nominate Tom.
Okay,
I second that.
great. So we have a motion and a second for Tom to sit on the Vision of the Graduate as the school committee member. Any further discussion on that? Okay, hearing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you so much, Tom. Rob, if you would like Tom to still fill out the form, please resend it to him so you can have it on your list. No, well, I know sometimes that matters for having it there, so.
Thank you, Tom.
And thank you, Tom, for your willingness to do that. Rob, for that, glad to hear that it's extended, and then, are you good with student representation, or do you need any assistance from our student rep in getting the word out?
We'd love to. I mean, we definitely need students on the group, so if you want to mention it to the student union, it's a really good committee. We're going to be looking at basically what we're asking students to demonstrate to receive a North Kingstown diploma. So it's a good conversation about what goes into the type of work they're doing, the type of assessments we're asking them to do, the type of learning that we want to see that happens. So their voice would be really
directly
important.
sent to Meg?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Did the ask go out to the student body?
I believe it did,
Yeah,
yeah.
we have to be careful about the agenda item,
Yeah.
Okay.
because it was just, the agenda item was just the Vision of the Graduate, so
Yeah.
we can put that on for a future
Yeah.
one, as well, or you can feel free to email Rob
Yep.
questions. I just want to I don't want to accidentally talk about something we're not supposed to.
Yep.
Cool. All right, great, so thank you so much, Tom, appreciate that. Good luck to the committee, and the school committee will look forward to getting some updates, as you all start that work. The next item on the agenda is the school committee calendar, so I'll make a motion to discuss.
Second.
Okay, and so, so basically, there is, in your packets, you'll have our current schedule for school committee meetings. And we have been asked to look at 2 of the dates. Jules, I don't know if you want to give any context, or?
I gave everybody, they should have a hard copy of the calendars in front of them.
Yep.
Well, we noticed that the January 2nd meeting, it falls right behind that winter recess. There are many people in this office that take vacation time, and then with you guys also having agenda meetings and stuff. So we were looking to change the January 2nd. I'm going to defer to Dr. Duva to talk about the December meeting that we're looking to change.
So the December meeting, that's December 19th, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Correct. That night, the high school has one of their winter concerts scheduled. So I think that it's best that we don't have a school committee meeting on the same night as a high school concert, and that way people don't have to make a choice. But also, too, if we're in a meeting, we can't go there to support them, and I think it's important that we're able to attend events and support what's happening at the schools as well. And I think having a large event at another school on the same night as a school committee meeting is just causes a conflict. So that was why I was requesting that we move our school committee meeting to another night. Our school committee meeting was scheduled prior to them putting up their calendar, but I think it's easier for us to move versus the hundreds of children and families and the event happening at high school to move their event.
Okay. And then, so there's those are the 2 things that the administration has asked us to consider, because we had already approved these meeting dates, so we would have to go and make a motion to move them. I don't know if we have any information about the joint budget meeting with the town.
It's the 11th, but I only know
December
that
11th.
from their correspondence on their own, not
Yep.
to us.
Yep, Jules, we haven't gotten any official correspondence
Nothing,
regarding that?
No.
All right, but we think it might be
It's
December 11th.
11th.
Yeah.
Okay, and so that is the prior Monday, which we have a meeting at, so do we have a policy that day?
Mhm.
Yep, so we'll need to work with the town on figuring that out, so we'll deal with that. But so definitely the 11th is off the table for a multitude of reasons. And so.
December 14th is an asset management committee meeting, and that I have to present the CIP at.
So I would suggest the 18th. I know Mondays are not wonderful, but I think we should try to keep it in the same week if we can.
That is I believe, a town council meeting?
No, they moved that.
They moved that one?
That
the
18th
one that
meeting
became
became the
the
11th, which became the joint meeting.
Okay. Okay, Jules, would you mind reaching out, can you confirm with the town on the expectations for us in our meetings at some, this week?
Okay.
And then, so if the town council meeting is not that Monday, other than the Kansas Chief New England's Patriots game, which is that evening, I see no reason why we couldn't meet.
Or we could do the 20th.
I was joking about the Patriots game. It really is that night, though. The 20th, we have DEI
Yeah, we could do it
after DEI.
DEI.
That might make more sense since we're already here, but I would defer to the administration on their schedules as well,
December
on preference. And Mr. Henry, Andrew, your schedule as well?
20.
We haven't booked any building committee meetings out that far, correct?
No, we only went up to the.
I'd be okay about 20th.
It's fine with me.
The Wednesday works?
What time?
We'll have to do executive after the meeting though, like it'll have to be
Yeah, like start at
start
7.
open and then close with executive, yeah.
So it's at 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock open and then executive to follow.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, we're gonna do the 20th.
Yeah. Is that okay with the, we'll vote officially, but does that, everyone, does that work?
I can't be there, but it's fine.
It's very unlikely that Jenny will be there on Wednesdays.
So can you
It's
make it?
cool.
This is Wednesday, the 20th.
Mm-hmm.
I anticipate that I'll make it. So that's the three of us, in all
I
likelihood.
don't love that.
Okay.
What time's the concert?
On the 19th,
Mm-hmm.
I want to say that was at 7.
6 p.m.
6.
There, we have it in here for 6 p.m.
So the concert's at 6.
I'm pulling up the high school. We have the 6.
Hmm?
Can't be there for the games then.
Is it at 6?
Yeah, but Jenny would be,
Yeah, they just
yeah.
should be there, yeah.
I just don't like scheduling a meeting where I know I only have 3 people,
What
because
about
if
the
one
Thursday? What
person
about
gets
the
sick or something,
Thursday?
I don't have quorum, that just makes me really nervous, so I try not to do that if we know, obviously things come up, but that would not be my preference.
So
if we-
either the Monday or the Thursday then? Either the 18th or the 21st, which nobody's gonna wanna have a meeting on the 21st of December.
So,
Monday.
the 19th,
So you could do the 18th?
yes.
Take the game. I'll take the game.
You start at 4 in the afternoon.
All right, so Monday the 18th, Andrew, Ken,
I can do that. It works.
all right.
What's the start time?
We will do, do we want to do a little earlier? It's just, the Tuesdays I can't be earlier, but Mondays I can be.
I can, that's fine.
What time frame can folks get here usually? Like
5:30?
does 5:30 work?
Yeah, probably.
5:30 executive, 6 open? You wanna try that? Does that work for you all?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it worked.
All right, so 5:30 executive, 6 open on the 18th. And then we'll vote on it officially, but were you gonna say something, Jules?
I was gonna say, just do 5:30 executive, and then when you guys get done, then your open will start.
Yeah, I do like to advertise it though for the public, I don't like them coming 30 minutes early and then having to sit here if they want to do comments, so
So 5:30 executive.
however we normally do it, I
It's
think.
usually an hour. It's usually 6 and 7.
Hmm?
Half hour's usually pretty good unless we have something
Um,
explicitly discussed.
I know we've always done
All right, we'll do
1 hour,
5:30,
but
6:30.
I'd be good with
Yeah,
that.
we'll do 5:30, 6:30, because if I do 30 minutes, then it won't work. Inevitably, the day we do that'll be a little more time for us, so. All right, so December 18th is rectified, and,
Let's change it.
I think Ken, just for, obviously for future, we'll just try to be really good about communicating the dates out to the.
So we already
Yeah.
talked. I already talked about it with the schools, and Jules and I were trying to figure out a way to create a district-wide calendar so this doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Because I think it's important that we're not scheduling stuff on the same days.
I think we also need to check
The one you have on
because
your website.
we really should have both this room and the auditorium booked
I
because
have,
we never know,
I
when
have
we're gonna
them
need.
booked both.
Yeah.
This was a.
Yeah, it's okay. No worries. Yeah. Yes, that's a good point though, Mike. Like in theory, a big event wouldn't be happening in the auditorium because
Yeah.
we would have had the auditorium secured and whatnot. But so it's okay. It's just transitioning communication. No worries. So we'll go once we set the calendar next year. We'll work around that. And then the January 2nd one. Thoughts on that, folks?
Just because we're headed into like full budget season, and in order to keep Andrew available to come, I was thinking the 4th instead of the 8th or the 9th. Because, right, you can't do the every other Tuesday, right?
It's the Tuesdays that are
Right.
huge.
The 4th
problem. The
doesn't
rest of
help
the
much
days is
though
fine.
with the concern about the agendas
The
and them
agenda.
being on, because you have to post it, like, we would still have to correspond, like, basically
We would
on
have
New
to
Year's.
post that
Yeah.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
Okay, so then the 8th, I would say the 8th, or whatever other day.
So I'm not really I sit on the board, and that's a meeting.
What's
And then
wrong-
we-
what's
then
wrong
we
with
have
the
17th, which
Andrew
is,
can't be here.
Why can't Andrew be
Be
here?
in Warwick on the second Tuesday. No, first. You guys are first and third. Yeah, Warwick's the second.
Yeah.
Isn't the 7th, oh, we're on a weird, we're on a
yeah, that's a
Wednesday.
weird one.
What if we did the, do the 10th,
It's fine.
10th or the 11th? I agree with you, Jen, but
Yeah, either the 10th or the 11th.
I'd rather have like a productive
Mhm.
agenda,
Yeah.
you know, because it's not just the agenda, it's all the attachments, it's all the things, like, I wanna honor the, like, administration being able, when they can take time, it's very limited, and so.
The 11th, the high school has an open house, for the incoming, for the grade 8,
Yeah.
for the incoming
We
8th
do
graders.
Wednesday the 10th.
Sure.
Do you want to look at the 17th as well because you have a holiday on the
We
15th?
already have a meeting on the 17th.
No, Mike's saying,
Oh.
move it.
You might want to look at moving the 17th as well because you'd essentially have one day and then be posting the next agenda.
Right.
No, that's fine, oh.
Yeah, I mean, there was a reason why we
Yeah.
picked
Yeah, the
that
reason
date.
that-
Like,
that
that's
we-
a
yeah.
weird day, so I can't remember what it
No,
was,
it's-
but it definitely,
Because for the 17th, don't we have to be posting, so if we had a meeting on the
I hear what you're
10th,
saying, I hear what you're saying, because like
We
you
have to
won't,
post
you
on
won't
the
have any
12th.
like business days to, in between those two to get the agenda. I don't know, move it to the 4th, and that at least gives us 2 days to get the attachments ready. We'd have to at least connect the week before about the agenda, but we can try to pre-do it. Like, we could try to establish some things, and then that would at least, like, you all are back that week though, right? Like, as far as getting the attachments and
Right.
things, so if we push two, at least you have 2 working days to,
may I point something
So
out?
if we do.
yes.
January 17th, and then is it February 6th? That's almost 3 weeks. Do you want to consider moving the January 17th meeting down 1 week to the 22nd to the 26th, sometime in that week?
You can't do the 23rd, it's the district spelling bee.
Yeah, there's like reasons for all the horrific dates that we chose, which
Yeah.
is, I don't know.
there's definitely a reason why we picked a Wednesday. We wouldn't have picked it like for no
Was the reason
reason.
was the day after a Monday holiday?
I'd have to go back and watch the tape. Okay,
Which Wednesday? I'm trying to
The
find it.
16th.
Which
January 17th.
Staff day.
So January 17th is school committee?
Yes.
All right, I had January 16th on my calendar.
That's what it was. We were on the 16th.
We
and
were
then
on the 16th,
yes,
and then there's a professional development day.
and that's
that
why I
day.
had to move to the 17th.
And that's why we moved it to the 17th. So in case we needed anybody to come in, we wouldn't call them in on a professional development.
okay, so Okay, your choices are.
I'm hesitant to push out just because we're headed into budget season, and if we end up having to schedule extra meetings.
It's January 2nd or January 4th.
No, that's what I'm talking about, moving out
was
from
Wednesday,
there.
January 10th?
What?
The reason for Wednesday, January 10th? We can't do it then?
Mike brought up the concern about it doesn't give you like days in between, like.
Time to post between the meetings.
Between the 10th
Yeah.
and
So if we
17th.
met on the 10th, we'd have to post
Yeah.
on the 12th. No, we'd have to post on, post on the 12th.
Yeah.
Actually, it's the 15th of federal holiday, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, there's the 12th, yeah.
It just is tight. Like it's doable, but. Okay, pick your poison. Dr. Duba, I defer to you. We can keep it on the 2nd. We can move it to the 4th.
I'd rather go with the 17th, because the 2nd and 4th does not give us a lot of time. I know the 17th is going to be close to the other meeting, but at least it gives us a few weeks to build agendas.
No, the 17th is our other
Yeah.
meeting.
That's already locked.
We already have a meeting on the 17th.
So then the 10th, I'm sorry, the 10th. Schedule the meeting on the 10th.
You'd rather go tight there?
I would, because we're not gonna be in work, then we're coming in and we're trying to get it done within the 2 days.
Yeah.
I'd rather us know that we have a school committee meeting on January 10th, a school committee meeting on January 17th, and let's work on building those agendas, and then that way we have it ready to go, because there really isn't enough time prior to get an agenda out for the 2nd or the 4th.
Yep. I think I'm just concerned about like the budget stuff. Like you're not gonna have any time to work through it, but it is what it is.
I guess unless we plan like the 17th for maybe the budget presentation, we kind of do businessy stuff on the 10th, because I would think that the budget presentation might be more questions and.
Yep. All right. So
You know what I mean?
all right, let's do January 10th. That Wednesday. And then we'll just be aware of the quick turnaround for
Are
the.
there additional dates on there for budget meetings on that calendar?
So no change.
So there's
March
yeah,
5th.
like kind of, but we don't know.
March 5th.
So what out for the 16th meeting? Do you want to put together a proposal of kind of what you think your time frame is for the budget? But we also can't talk about that right now. But we can add meetings as needed. We did that last time. Yeah. But I would like to add them, like if we have a guess of when they might be, it's way better for, I think, all of our calendars if we have them on.
We
our
haven't gotten
calendars.
them
Yeah.
this
So
time
take a
yet,
look at
huh?
that and then report back. Okay, so I'll make a motion to change our December 19th meeting to December 18th with executive starting at 5:30, open starting at 6:30 due to the winter concert conflict, and the January 2nd meeting to January 10th.
At normal time, correct?
At-
Normal time?
Yep, at
6 and 7.
6 and 7.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay. I'm just thinking, and then we should set a date to when we want to set next year's calendar, like for the school, like for school committee, so that we can try
We should
to
do
make
that
sure.
in December to put up.
Yeah. Okay.
But what it
Hold on,
runs
yep.
from,
Yeah, we're all the way to June, but like we would like to, we'll post it, like we did this, I don't know when, a long time ago is the moral of the story. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is the DEI subcommittee equity audit recommendations. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to discuss.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, so a motion and a second to discuss the recommendations. So I'll turn it back over to Jen as the chair of that subcommittee.
So as was discussed during the readout, the DEI subcommittee moved 3 recommendations forward to us for us to review. These are based on the findings in the equity audit if everybody remembers, there were 4 sent forward in February of last year, 3 of which we've acted on. So I'm bringing forward tonight the 3 additional recommendations from the subcommittee, as well as reminding everybody that there is still one other outstanding. Just to quickly reiterate, the ones that we're considering tonight are to increase opportunities for student voice in areas valued by students, to create an NKSD equity vision statement, to address the monitoring of discipline data, solicit student input about the current disciplinary system, and to review and revise discipline policies and practices from an equity lens. And then the outstanding one is that the NKSD develop a plan for including anonymous reporting for race and gender-based harassment and incidents of bias within district-wide reporting systems. So those are the 4 that are on the table for discussion this evening about how we as a school committee would like to proceed.
Technically, oh no, yeah, that works the way it's written. Yep, it's up. Okay, so thank you for that, and thank you for that subcommittee. Again, it's just, we had the large equity audit. I think there's 38 or 39 recommendations, something like that
54.
on it. 54, what,
Yeah,
54 separate ones. And so the subcommittee is really working through and trying to help the district kind of prioritize kind of how to tackle that large list. And as Jen mentioned in the subcommittee report, it's not that there are lots of things that could be being done and might be being done at different levels in the district, but these are ones that are more strategic, might need resources, might need designated time, etc. Obviously, there's lots of things that people could be doing at different levels to being based on the recommendations in the equity audit. And so first kind of thoughts or questions regarding the 4 recommendations from the committee, and then we can kind of figure out maybe next steps. This is the talky one. This is the talking portion of the meeting.
So I know, I think it actually came up last week and this week also, like one of the number 1 priority ranked by everybody on basically on the DEI subcommittee was increasing opportunities for student voice in areas valued by students. That's one that really resonated with all the members of the subcommittee, especially we do have students who are on that subcommittee, and the student, advocated very well, and she also brought up a great point that like the late bus had initially arisen from a student request, and that was something that we've been able to see through. So, I mean, I would like to see this committee discuss what ways we can provide additional avenues for, students. One of the findings was that, from the equity audit, was that students have a limited voice in the decision-making process, and that they expressed a desire for more effective communication from school and district leaders. So, what they had recommended was that we formalize communication channels and protocols for students to actively provide input to school and district leaders, and ensuring that all these opportunities are widely known and accessible to all. Because I do think we have great student representation when we seek it out, but I don't know if all students necessarily know where those avenues are, and I think we could probably make some better avenues for them to participate. So.
Jen, I usually can keep up. I missed a couple words. Formalize communication channels and protocols. Thank you.
I'm wondering if there's a way to use our school improvement teams for some of this work, because it's goals that are related to the work we're doing with our SITs, and make sure that there are students sitting on the school improvement teams at all levels, and that way we're looking at every single school and student voice from all schools, from all levels. Is one way of working on that.
I'd like to ask our student for recommendations, but one thing that I wanted to bring up too was that it wasn't just also like providing areas, it was making sure like they didn't feel that their voices were heard or valued, and like that when things had been raised, they had been shut down. So I think it's not just formalizing, like putting them on a committee, but making sure that they're accepted and two-way conversation. But Maggie, you have anything you want to chime in about student voice?
I think the new administration, at least at the high school, is doing a really nice job trying to include more students. Earlier this year, they asked all students who would be interested if they wanted to be on the SIT committee, and they got so many responses that they had to narrow it down. So I think they're really trying to have students be involved, and I think that we're definitely feeling more heard this year.
Good, that's great.
So I definitely think Ken's idea, I think this is a multi-tiered approach. Like, it's not like we're going to be able to be like, okay, we're going to do this one thing and student voice is heard. And so I definitely think Your point about the SIT teams is a good one, and I'm glad to hear that the high school did that. Perhaps that's something, like, how would that work as far as membership for students at the different ones?
We would talk to the building principals and make sure they put something out to the school to get volunteers or seek out students to be part of those school improvement teams.
And those meet during the school day?
No, they're out. Those are after school.
Okay.
One simple thing that I thought too, because what they said was, more effective communication. I'm not sure, like we kind of touched on it, I don't know how many emails actually go out to, like the emails that go out to the community, do those actually go out to the students?
I have not been, I've just been sending them.
Yeah, and I think that might be
parents
one
and staff.
area that we could, because there was some feedback from the audit that students felt like they weren't being kept abreast of things that were happening in their school. I don't know.
Is that something that we just want to send to the high school? Do we want to send it to the middle?
Well, I was just gonna say, like,
elementary?
I don't know where that, but I think the high school at least should be
Group is-
getting copies of the communication that goes out.
That's definitely something that we can start doing if we want to make sure that high school students are seeing what we're sending out to community and families. Would that be helpful?
I think, and we don't have to make any decisions today. I think I just wanted us to talk through, and then you can talk to your team in the building. I don't think we have to make, we're doing this today, but I think just thinking through, what I heard was that the subcommittee asked us to look at ways that we can increase student opportunities, particularly based on the recommendations of the equity audit, decision-making process, formalizing communication channels and protocols for getting their thoughts on specific things. And so it might not be every communication, but maybe specific ones where we want feedback from community members, from students.
Appropriate to go to the
Yeah.
students.
Or
Just
looking
to
for
clarify
opportunities,
that,
yeah.
they specifically, that communication was specifically brought up, not in terms of feedback, but just in terms of communication. Like, they
Yeah.
felt like when a lot of things were going on in this district, that they were not kept in the loop.
Yeah.
And so I think just keeping them copied on general correspondence, not just areas where we're asking for their input, is important.
Okay. Other thoughts on that particular recommendation?
When you say that particular recommendation,
Yep.
you're referring to?
To the one about increasing student opportunities. I had one thought, because I want to make sure, obviously, there's kind of different branches of, the governance of the school committee, and so I thought, or the district, so I thought maybe, we could look at ways that we could increase student opportunities in the different subcommittees that we have. So kind of thinking about, do we have students that go to wellness, maybe, and not necessarily always sitting on them, but how can we call them in, how can we go to them to get feedback on important things, and so being a little bit more intentional about that. And then as we're formalizing that subcommittee, as the policy subcommittee is formalizing the kind of rules
Yep.
for how folks are on school subcommittees, et cetera, kind of considering that as an important piece. Because that's definitely a place where decision making happens. And so making sure that we have some avenues to get student voice there is something that the school committee can do, as well as making sure that we are really thinking about how to get good information on decisions that we're trying to make, and not just saying, oh, they can come to our meetings, but acknowledging the facts that students are busy after school and can't always come, and that there's barriers, and so trying to really figure out ways to do that, and also working, I think, with our student rep on ideas of how to get some student feedback on specific things as well. Other thoughts on that piece, and maybe some next steps? Okay, so it sounds like maybe we'll think through some of those options as far as formalizing some protocols and some options of ways that student voice can be present, and then also think about ways that we can communicate more effectively with students.
There is one topic that I wanted to discuss.
Wait, is it?
I wasn't. It's on this topic, but I'm not trying to cut you off.
Yeah. Oh, the next one. Yeah. No, I was just wrapping up this one. We'll go to the next one in a second. The discipline one.
Okay.
I'm moving on from just this one, not
Right.
the general overall one. Sorry, Tom.
Okay, I
Yep.
misunderstood.
No worries. Okay. So, and we'll circle back on that increased student opportunity so folks can think about it and think about different ways that we might have options. If the student union has any opinions, feel free to bring them forward to us. And then we can move on to the other one. So the next one was
creating a NKSD equity vision statement. This was actually one of the priority recommendations, and what this would be define and communicate how our existing vision, mission statement, and strategic goals all relate to equity. And in doing so, like in crafting this, the recommendation is that we ensure that the statement explicitly includes a vision focusing on equity for all marginalized classes. It says specifically having a vision that explicitly identifies equity as opposed to more broad statements that encompass all students is essential. Like the purpose of this statement is to specifically articulate how we see equity as a priority in this district.
okay. Thoughts from the committee and administration on that?
So I know that one of the things that I had, when we brought forward the idea about bringing in consultancy work to lead professional development, my hope in putting out the RFP for that work would be this would be a central focus of the leadership, would be the equity vision statement. The only reason I bring that up is because I think that we can certainly develop or bring together vision statements that other districts use and use them as samples and discuss them and so on and so forth. But I think it would be valuable to have somebody with the perspective of real expertise in this work to oversee it. I mean, I don't think it's, I think it would help guide the work, as opposed to just being something where it might be difficult for people without that specific level of background.
Okay, other thoughts? I definitely think this is important. I actually was shocked when I started being on the school committee that we didn't have one. I just feel like a lot of districts and a lot of places have really put forward statements like this. And I think that it's important that we prioritize it so that we're kind of sending that message. I would say we got feedback this week from that email that we weren't specific enough in that one as well. The one that Dr. Juba and I sent out, a community member kind of mentioned that you need to be a little bit more explicit. And so I definitely think this is something important, and we've known about this for almost a year now, because the equity audit is almost a year old, and so I would like to see us at least have some tangibles. I know we have a lot of priorities and a lot of things going on. I think my hope was that we'd have somebody in that position that could lead kind of this charge in the district, but I do think that it's important that we kind of set it, because it will, I think, set the tone for a lot of the other work that we need to do in this area. Other thoughts?
I mean, I agree. I think this is something that, should have been worked on. We should definitely start working on it now. I think engaging, feedback from the different pockets of the community and our school community is important in doing it. I've never written one, so I don't know whether you need a consultant to do it, but I question, we have a mission statement, we have strategic visions, we did those without a consultant, so I would not like to see this wait until we have somebody come in to get working on it.
Yeah, well, I wrote down all of the recommendations, so we will be working on that.
Okay, is there, is this something that we can kind of try to quantify in terms of time?
I can. You asked me earlier about something as well. There's a lot on our plates right now, and I know that's why we also put up for, a person here to help. So we will work on that along with all the other many things that we are working on and prioritize what we can do and get done in a timely manner for everyone.
I would just like to remind everybody that our lack of movement in these areas, and I'm not calling you out, but our lack of movement in these areas says a lot more than any statement that we make.
I understand.
Yeah. Okay, so why don't we, why don't you all kind of check in on that and think about kind of the best path forward. In an amazing world, I would love to have this done by June. I do think the process is really important. You could carbon copy something from a different district, but I think having people work through what does equity mean,
and
and
others to be looking at feedback from the community, not just
that's.
Yeah, I do also want to honor the fact that we just did a huge equity audit, though, and that we have a lot of feedback from the community that maybe when you normally would start a vision statement, you don't have a however many page document with a lot of things in it. So I think we're not starting at zero, which I think is great. We have a lot of data and a lot of information, but as you're editing and working through it, getting some feedback and different things I think is really important, and I also want to honor the lots of things. So, you know, like whether or not that's feasible is one thing, but kind of what I would love for you all to consider is if it's possible to have it done by the end of the school year. And if it's not, come back
by
and...
the end of the school year, definitely.
Okay.
I think that's a
Should have said January.
Mm.
I'm just saying. No, like I want to be realistic, but I also know because of the transition that we've had, it's been almost a year, and that you know this, it's something that we need to do, but it's also not a steadfast thing. You can revise a vision, you can revise a mission statement. So I would like us to be thoughtful about it, but not. I just got a weird text from my. Okay, that's okay.
There are a lot of really good examples out there too. Of like
Yeah.
we don't want to cut and paste, but the
right. We can look at examples
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
help us be
Yeah.
able to create
Yeah.
something. So.
Yeah, so could we get maybe get at least a plan or a timeline document of kind of what the administration's thoughts are on how to approach it? I understand that a consultant could be helpful here, but I also think that there's some resources in the community of people that might be willing to kind of help us with this, maybe on like a one-time thing or a short, quick thing. You know, we've got some really nice universities that do a lot of this work that might come in, or maybe somebody that works for a consulting firm, but maybe something short where they kind of run a thing for us or something, or get us helping with the plan. But
maybe we can put
wanna be
together
careful with
3
resources.
key areas and
Yeah.
put something together in a survey and send out to the community, get some feedback as well as ideas from others. Because it shouldn't just be coming from us; it should
Yeah.
be something that's coming from the community and those that will be impacted by it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And I just want to add that the only reason I bring that up is because that we did set aside Title II money specifically for this, and it wasn't just for the vision statement. It was also for other aspects of professional development related to equity and DEI.
so there are separate funds that are available.
In Title II, we set aside funds in Title II.
So why wouldn't we do that?
No, I think what Rob's referring to is when we came back, when we brought to you a consultancy model
Yeah.
for the position of a wellness Title IX
Yeah.
equity coordinator, it being through a consultant model. And Rob's just referring back to those
Yeah.
funds that we had, that it wouldn't just be a vision statement, but
Yeah.
consultancy in general
Yeah.
for this work. So.
But then the school committee had also put aside money from the ESSER funds for the position. So is what I'm hearing is we have 2 different buckets of money to help get this work done?
Right. So the title money was really for the professional
Yeah.
development side, and
Great.
the equity one. I'm sorry, the ESSER was for the
Yeah.
position.
Yes.
So is there a reason why we can't, we may be figuring off the agenda here, but is there a reason why we can't proceed with the PD regardless of what else
There would
we
have to be a
You're
bid
hearing.
approved.
Yep, you're
You're
here.
hearing?
You're weird.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
If you're back,
Hearing,
we can
hearing,
put that on
okay.
the future
Alert,
agenda.
okay, okay.
So what I'm hearing though is there might be an opportunity to utilize funds that are set aside for equity, diversity, and inclusion to help us achieve this goal well before my
Yes.
by
If we could put it up to
June.
bid.
Quandary. All right, so maybe my recommendation would be the administration looks at that and brings us back kind of a plan and a timeline for achieving that goal. Awesome. And then the next one is, Jen, what was the fourth?
So
third one?
the third one out of 4 is to address the monitoring of discipline data, solicit student input about the current disciplinary system, and to review and revise discipline policies and practices from an equity lens. This was another one. This was a big finding in the equity audit, and this was a big topic of discussion in the DES subcommittee. It is clear that we have an obvious disparity in our disciplinary rates. You know, we're not the only district, but it definitely is. And every day that persists, we're harming students. So this is one that I really think, you know, I know it's not an easy fix, but I think it's something that needs attention.
Okay, and so kind of thoughts on how to approach this. Obviously, there's a couple different levels there, and so, you know, as far as what the school committee kind of has control over as far as policies, et cetera, like at the school committee level, and then I imagine there might be some things in the handbooks that are at the building administration administrator level, and then, you know, like there's a couple different areas that we could look at.
I think this is something that is like a thing enough that it like maybe should have its own little group working on it. Because it's not good. I mean, it needs the attention. It needs the focus. It needs people working together. And I feel like if we don't say this is a priority, that we need to fix this, and we're going to designate like a temporary task force or a temporary subcommittee to work on it, that it's just not going to get done.
And I would agree with that, because I think this one area that there's a lot of multitudes that we need. There's a lot of layers that we need to look at, and I'm just jotting down a few things that, you know, training for staff and all, and how you are reviewing discipline data, how you're interacting with students. You know, we need to look at what type of consequences we have in place, look at student handbooks, looking at policies. How do our policies, do we, you know, looking at any behavioral policies that we have to make sure that we are writing policies in a more positive way to look at supports and interventions versus just consequences and suspension and expulsion. I know that was something I noted at one of our other policies and review. So I think having a committee that's working on it would be important, because there's multiple layers and areas that we need to focus in on.
So the school committee has the authority to constitute a temporary advisory committee per BCF. So that could be a mechanism, or you could do a district subcommittee.
My recommendation would be a temporary advisory committee, or whatever the phrasing is from the school committee policy. I think this is something that, you know, the school committee should be making a priority, the administration should be making a priority, and I think unless it's designated as such, you know, and I think we need to pull in people from multiple areas also.
Is that a motion?
It is a motion.
Can you say it like a motion?
I would like to make a motion that the school committee authorize a, what is it?
It says, wait, let me, Andrew, do you have it open?
Is it ad hoc, or is it
No, it's definitely called a temporary advisory committee.
temporary advisory committee?
So it says the school committee will provide a clear charge, scope, and duration.
Yep, so I'd like to make the recommendation that we agree to move forward with that and bring it back to the next meeting with what the scope and duration is for it.
Okay, so your motion is to create a temporary advisory committee on, what was the recommendation exactly called? Disciplinary?
Address the monitoring of discipline data, solicit student input about the current disciplinary system, and to review and revise discipline policies and practices from an equity lens. I guess that technically could be the charge right there.
What's your question, Ken?
I was going to say, can we just bring in a temporary advisory committee to look at disciplinary procedures?
Yeah, so I think, so I would make a motion to, if you want to do it, to make a motion to set up a temporary advisory committee on disciplinary policies and procedures.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion that the school committee authorize a temporary advisory committee on discipline policies, practices, and procedures.
So sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
That's aggressive ring, we'll talk about it later. You need to step out and grab it, no worries as well.
No, it's an alarm.
Is it 8 o'clock? You shouldn't be here anymore, Lauren?
No, I'm so tired.
Okay, no worries. So there's a motion on the table.
Good taste.
Jen, did you want to add with the charge of what you just, like, what
With
that
the
said?
charge of addressing the monitoring of discipline data, soliciting student input about the current disciplinary system, and reviewing and revising discipline policies and practices from an equity lens.
And my recommendation, and the duration of the advisory committee?
No more than a year?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we'll open up for discussion. I support that motion. I think that it is very, very big and broad, and that having a group kind of designated to look at it that is made up of folks on the school committee as well as the administration and kind of community members is really important, because I do agree that the data that came through in the equity audit was very clear, and I also think knowing that Dr. Duva has some thoughts and ideas on how to improve some of those practices and modernize some of those practices is a really exciting opportunity for the district to kind of capitalize on our new leadership and also the data that we have, which I also know Rob really likes data and a good base. I would like to also say Rob is really, great at the policy subcommittee when we were talking through this option of different things that we could do and look at. So, other conversations regarding this? Thoughts on the time frame and scope? Okay. Okay, hearing no further discussion, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that carries, and we will see that in the future agenda, because we'll need to, it says in the, per the policy, it says the school committee will approve membership of those committees upon recommendations by the superintendent. So we'll follow the policy and go through how to set up a temporary advisory committee.
Okay.
Moving on to the fourth one.
And then the last one, and this had been brought forward back in February, but we tabled it at that time because it wasn't budget sensitive and we were only focusing on budget issues, was that the NKSD develop a plan for including anonymous reporting for race and gender-based harassment and incidents of bias within district-wide reporting system. The specific recommendation from the audit was that we should provide an easy-to-use, offer an anonymous and accessible reporting system for students, provide an easy-to-use tool like a mobile app with options to report incidents of bias, discrimination, identity-based bullying, and access resources for help. This will empower students to speak up about issues in the community and strengthen the school climate. This should be separate from the See Something, Say Something, which is a mobile app that's currently used for school violence prevention. Something that came out in the equity audit was that bias-based bullying is unaddressed, and that many students and families perceive inconsistent, biased implementation of student discipline, which we're about to address, but that students express hesitation in reporting incidents of bias-based bullying due to concerns around embarrassment or inaction, and that, it was noted that was, they also felt that there was not comprehensive anti-bias discipline training from the staff, and those two things hand in hand made it an uncomfortable situation for students to report these types of issues when they arose.
Okay. Kind of thoughts on next steps for that one. I know.
I think we need to create an online form that's on our website that people can submit.
Isn't that what Barton Gillen was doing? I had a meeting with them a few weeks ago, and we went over some forms, and they were working on a form. And I said, yes, we can digitize all that. I just haven't.
I can check with Stephanie. I know they are actively involved in setting up the website, which we've all been talking about, and maybe there was a reporting component to that. But I can find that out for you tomorrow.
There was.
Let's see if it's the same
Yep.
thing.
That's great.
Find out.
There's what's happening. We just don't have an update on, so that's good. Yeah, so it sounds like Andrew will follow up on that and make sure that that form is part of kind of looking at that website, et cetera.
And the beauty of our webpage is if we do an embedded form, our webpage is made to work off of a traditional laptop or a mobile device. So it has an
app might not
like
be
functionality.
As long as I think the important thing here is anonymous, and I know we've debated this before, but I mean, the ability to not have to identify yourself and for that to be clear right off the bat versus, at the very bottom say, you don't have to put your email address. I think that's the important.
It comes down to there being a slider as to whether it's a required field or not.
All right, so it sounds like we can get an update at a future meeting on that. Tom?
I'm very uncomfortable with this. I'm totally in favor of trying to make the community safer, more welcoming and inclusive for members of all portions of the community. But anonymous reporting to me is highly vulnerable to abuse. And I'm concerned. I'm sure there will be people that would use that in good faith. I'm also concerned about the possibility of people making accusations for less than totally pure purposes. And
Can I ask
I'm not sure how I.
I have a question for Andrew. Just so when something's anonymous and an allegation is put through, how do we go about investigating that if we don't have a person to go back to, and someone just puts something out there about another person, right?
We've
How do
actually,
we now then investigate that, make sure that it's true, to do something? What is our legal obligation to follow through when something's anonymous versus it's reported with who it's
Obviously, there's a
to?
lesser
I can see both sides,
Nope.
but I also want to make sure that we're protecting the school department in doing so.
There's a lesser obligation when it's anonymous, obviously, but it really is on a case-by-case basis. We've had some anonymous complaints come in, but they may name an instance or a situation or 3 or 4 individuals, which at least gives us something to go on to at least make an inquiry. We've also had anonymous things that have come in that it's just impossible to get a timeline or anything else like that. So you really do, I mean, what we've done, I think I might have worked on Rob with some of these, you just look at each one as they come in, and if there's an avenue to gain additional information, we'll try and do that. It's difficult with anonymous. It absolutely is. And I don't want to say oftentimes, but it becomes, unless you get a really good tip, lead, piece of information that generates some factual data, it's very hard to pursue those. It really is. So again, if you set up a system like this, I think there has to be a mechanism in place where we're looking at the complaints as they come in, and we're investigating them to the best of our ability. That's not always. Sometimes there may be no investigation depending on the way it comes in, and with it being anonymous, you can't go back to that person and ask for a clarification. So I think that just has to be the understanding. My assumption is there might be something that Barton Gilman would put together, so I don't want to say a disclaimer for lack of a better term.
I don't think they were creating an anonymous form. I think they're just helping us with our forms to make sure that, specifically around Title IX, which they're consulting us with, is that our Title IX forms are online, that they're accessible.
Okay. I'll talk to Stephanie tomorrow and see exactly what they had, and if they've got maybe some conservative reporting form, we can piggyback off that. But my suggestion would be, if we go that route, some kind of a disclaimer that makes it clear that just because it's reported, we may not be able to act on it, or even to efficiently investigate it, depending on what comes in.
Even with the See Something, Say Something as another anonymous reporting app, it's not always anonymous because there's someone on the other side talking with the person that's putting the report in, and they're asking questions. But that's a whole call center that's going to, and there's options to provide more information. So if we do get
I think with the equity audit, the intent is to remove barriers to make students or whomever feel safe and confident in giving information to the district that we might not have, right? And so
we want to make sure that they do feel that way.
Yeah.
They feel that they can provide that.
Yeah, and so an example, a counter example of this, and maybe that's not possible, and maybe it has to be something, but that would be the ideal, right? Is some anonymous mechanism. Maybe that's not possible, but we have nothing right now. So I think something is better than nothing. But if you look at the bullying form, they have required form name, required form student ID, grade, required, signature at the end. You're not filling this out. And I get that, and I get why, and I get the statute and all that sort of things, but I think it's just thinking about the goal is to provide something to allow people who might be vulnerable to provide us information about things that are harming them, and how do we best do that? And so I think just trying to, maybe circling up with Barton is the next step, and then figuring out what's the best thing to get that up, because again, that's over a year delayed as well. So that would be, I think, a good tangible thing that we could maybe not have be. It's not a huge lift, like a vision statement or something, but a very good tangible that we could maybe close the loop on. So it sounds like next step is Andrew will check in with Barton and see what's going on with the website and whatnot.
Do we have examples from other schools?
I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
I mean, I know this happens in other districts. Maybe not here in Rhode Island, but they didn't recommend this as a brand new idea. So I can certainly find out. Yeah.
And I do hear your concerns, Tom, and I respect that you brought that up. I do think that it is concerning. I do know we have a forum like this at my school, and I think our biggest challenge is getting the word out that it exists and having students utilize it. And I believe it's anonymous. I'll double check. But I do think it is important to try to put some safeguards in to allow for protection of others too, right? You don't want it to be a place where people are just anonymously putting in information, but also, trying to figure out that balance I think is really important. And I really liked also what Andrew said about like, hey, if you do submit this anonymously, like there might be nothing that happens because we can't follow up or investigate it properly. So trying to figure out some balance there.
I'm not going to defend people who are bullying kids. That's not my purpose here. But I know that being investigated, doing what I do for a living, is a really traumatic experience. And there are safeguards that are kind of built into the system. It's not, and they don't always work. And I'm not sure that we'll be able to come up with a perfect solution. But I think we need to be very careful about how we approach that.
Yep.
So, and I'm very curious to find out what other school systems or departments have done to try to address that kind of a concern.
I don't think an anonymous form is atypical. Like I do think that they exist in other districts. And I think the key here is that this is like specific. I mean, it can be expanded obviously, but this is specifically to address incidences of bias and discrimination, and that are confirmed are not being reported because the students don't feel comfortable reporting it, or they've reported it and they just, so I just think that's I completely understand your concerns, and there definitely are instances where anonymous reporting would be a bad thing, but I think if we are able to open up an avenue for students to share areas where they are not feeling welcome or safe in our school, that we should try and figure out a way to do it.
I would say too, making sure that before you put a form out like that you have a procedure in place for like how, like those will, who will get them, who will handle them, those sort of things, because you want to make sure that you're honoring that when they do come in. Okay, so we have some next steps. I heard we obviously created a new temporary, whatever that was called, temporary advisory committee, so we'll have some next steps there. We'll have some next steps on the form. We'll hear back from the administration on kind of a timeline and their thoughts on a plan for the, not the plan for the vision statement, but a timeline plan for the vision statement. And then, what was the fourth one that I missed? Increasing student opportunities. We had a couple tangibles there with the SIT teams, looking at the school committee memberships and also encouraging the school committee subcommittees to outreach to students when possible in a variety of ways to get voice. And then people can bring some additional ideas on ways that we can try to get some more formalized communication channels and protocols to get student voices heard as well. And so we can kind of go from there and get some updates at future meetings.
Perfect.
And please send our thanks to the DI subcommittee. Okay, anything else on this agenda item? Okay, and so we've already done the new business, we had moved that, and so we're at correspondence. Jen, do you have a correspondence report?
It was actually a very light week of correspondence. We had one email on October 23rd from Lauren Brill regarding a WPRI inquiry on the school bond vote.
Okay, thank you. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, we'll go Jen for motion, second for Rob. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.